I am here today making a card with Miss Ink Stamps Hippo Hooray stamp set for Not Too Shabby Design Team. I have a piece of mixed media watercolor paper that I'm going to be applying some of my Gonzi Tambai watercolors to, just to make what looks like a puddle or a small body of water, just something that looks watery. That's my whole goal here. So I'm using my water brush just to make it nice and wet, get the colors moving, and I'm going to take my heat tool and dry this back a little bit and just keep working the panel until it's to my satisfaction. If you're not familiar with Not Too Shabby, that's a company that sells stamps, not only their own brand of stamps, but stamps from many different manufacturers. And there is a coupon code below in my description box for 10% off your order using my affiliate code from Not Too Shabby. So I encourage you to check out the Not Too Shabby shop if you've never seen it before. There's so much to choose from, so many different stamp companies. There's something for everyone. And if you like this stamp set, it is available in the Not Too Shabby shop. I'm just going doing some basic coloring with alcohol markers. I have Copic and Ohuhu alcohol ink markers. And its Hippo is so cute and it's very easy to color. It just requires me to outline the image and outline the spots where there's like folds in the skin with this darker color gray, and then going in with a lighter color gray. So I've fast forwarded this section or speeded it up because it's very basic Copic coloring. There's no special techniques or shading used here. Just because it is such a simple image, it doesn't really require a lot of special techniques. And you'll see that I stamped this out ahead of time. Actually, I had previously made a card using the stamp set, and I cut the images out with my brother's Scan and Cut. So that's why there are basically hippopotamus shaped openings on my card base. And this card base that I'm using is the Accent Opaque 120 pound, which is a nice heavy weight cardstock, great for using your alcohol ink markers. They don't bleed, and it's just a really nice weight. And I'm going to be using my brother's Scan and Cut to cut these little images out. So I wanted something that was just a little bit substantial. Cute little bird. There's also turtle and some different grass. So I just go ahead and I color these in. And what I'm doing is very basic coloring, and I'm not going to show all of the coloring on my recording because it's so basic. Yeah, again, these are the Ahuhu markers, and you can get them on Amazon. And I just really enjoy using them. They have a bullet tip and a chisel tip, and the bullet tip is thin enough and narrow enough that I can get into the smallest little spaces. Sometimes with a bullet tip, it can be hard to get into the fine lines, but I don't have any trouble doing that with this brand of marker. And this turtle's really cute. I definitely had to include this turtle, in my card. I stopped the recording of the coloring because it's very basic and there wasn't really much to learn from it. So I jumped ahead to where I am cutting out the panel that I'm going to be using. It's just this little watercolor area that I created. I'm going to show you how I'm going to take these little pieces that I put through my scan and cut and adhere them to the panel. So right now I just ran over to my Gemini Junior die cut machine and I cut this out. My tape was sticking because it's that watercolor paper, so it's got a little bit of a rough texture to it. So my tape was kind of sticking. I was starting to panic. I thought, oh, I don't want to rip my paper. I have to do another watercolor, you know, background, which is not really a full watercolor background. It's just that's the thing I was looking for. It's going to look like a puddle. So that's it. I'm just checking out the damage, and it's not too bad. It's not noticeable. Okay. Some of the little things that I colored, I felt like I needed to go over again just to get a better look for them. So I grabbed my clipboard and I'm just going to grab a couple markers and I'm just going to fill in some of the areas that need filled in on these little leaf, foliage, um, shrubs. Yeah, so I just grabbed my Copic marker that's green. It's that yellow-green color. And I just filled in because I just felt like it was too white. It's, it just didn't look right. And even on the sides where the scan and cut the shrubbery out, I felt like I needed to go over that with green. And these are just some more like plants that are going to be sort of accents on the card. Okay, that's really all I wanted to do with that. And I'm going to go ahead and trim down this blue panel. It's almost like an electric blue, phthalo blue, or ultramarine blue, I mean. It's nice and bright. And I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz 3D embossing folder Crackle, and I'm going to run that panel through my machine. But I do want to say that I did spray this piece of paper lightly with a thin mist of water. This helps it from cracking because these 3D embossing folders are really amazing. They have a lot of pressure goes into them, and then you don't want to risk your paper being ripped. So again, I ran over to my Gemini Junior, and I'll be back in a second. And I can't wait to show you how cool this panel looks. It kind of reminds me of water just because of the way it has. There, you see it. It kind of reminded me of water a little bit. And then I had another piece of cardstock that I was going to mat it, but then it covered up almost the entire 3D embossing folder background. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of that mat and just put this directly onto the 3D embossing folder panel. And I think it looks really cool. I'm going to be using an action wobble to give my hippo some spring movement, and I need to get a sentiment out. And so I'm looking over the sentiments here, deciding how I'm going to arrange my components onto my card. And the sentiment that I end up picking is big hugs. And this way I kind of have an idea of where I want to put everything before I start gluing. And sometimes I don't stick to this plan. I will switch things around. But I like to give myself a little bit of like planning of how I'm going to put things together. Okay, so I'm going to grab the big hugs and I'm going to use my little embossing buddy. It's like a little bag with powder in it. It's great for when you're embossing a sentiment. It makes it so that you don't have embossing powder sticking to places where you don't want it to stick. just because your skin's natural oils can become trapped onto the paper, and then that oil is something that the embossing powder wants to stick to. So I had to stamp my sentiment twice because the first impression did not come out very well. And I'm just going to use some clear embossing powder, and then I will get my heat gun and heat up this sentiment, just making sure that the sentiment has a little bit dimension to it. Anytime you emboss something, it helps it from looking so flat, I guess. One thing that I do is I use a clothes hanger just to hold my paper while I'm embossing it with the heat gun. It helps to keep my fingers from getting burned. And I did it off camera because I didn't want my mat to get warped with the heat from the heat gun. Now I'm just going to take my guillotine trimmer and trim down my sentiment to a nice little square. And I'm happy with that. And I'm going to start putting it all together because we're almost near the end of the video. Um, Again, I did have a video about a week or so ago using this stamp set from Miss Ink. I hope that you'll check it out and see the other ideas that I came up with. That is more of a water scene with a couple hippos swimming in a river or whatever. I'm using Beacon 3-in-1 glue, which is a clear adhesive. Goes down clear and dries clear. It works really well for this textured embossing folder. So this card is going to feature a little action wobble. This is just a little plastic spring that you can put on the back of your character to give it some motion. I'm just peeling the little plastic adhesive off of it and getting ready to place the hippo finally down in the puddle. And you can move it. Once you press it down hard, it's going to stay put. But I really think it's cute, and it's definitely, and it adds interest to the card. There's my sentiment. Huge thanks. Took some, I took my corner rounder and rounded the corners on that sentiment. Okay, now I'm switching over to my art glitter glue because these little characters and greenery are small. I get better control with the tip of the art glitter glue for these small pieces. So I switched over to the art glitter glue, which works fine. And I'm going to adhere this rock and this little turtle that's looking up at the hippo. So cute. And then the grasses or the plants over on the other side of the card. But I like the colors. I like how the watercolor that I use matches the panel, which is not planned. I didn't plan on this happening, but it just came together that way. So I was glad. I was glad that it did. And now I'm just going to show you how that action wobbler works. You just flick it and the little character wobbles back and forth. I'm just sticking a little bit more glue here on the front of this panel so it doesn't come off. So thank you very much for watching my video today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and if you're not already a subscriber, I would encourage you to please subscribe to my channel. I make a couple card videos every week and I'm on a couple different design teams. And one of the things about my techniques is there's a lot of variety. It's not just the same thing on each and every video. I'm glad that you stopped by. It's been great spending time with you. Have a hopeful day. Bye bye.